All right, everyone. So welcome to another exciting Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast. My name is Jesse. I'm your virtual adventure guide. And I know we've got a lot of familiar faces in the crowd today, but if you are new to us, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. Everything we do goes live to our YouTube channel and stays there forever. So if you love today's program and want to watch it in 3 weeks or like 10 years, you can totally go back and watch and learn more about Ripley's turtles. A lot of opportunity to keep the excitement going. And our partner organization today, Ripley's Aquarium of Canada, we have joined for over 30 broadcasts in the last year. So if you want to learn about seahorses or sharks or their coral reef or kelp exhibits, there is so much to discover on that YouTube channel. I want to say a huge thank you to our audience today. It is like an epic amount of classes joining us live and on YouTube. Alone already, we've got Alberta, we've got Arizona, Alaska, we've got Minnesota, geez, more Minnesota, all over Ontario and more. Almost 1,500 kids registered for today's program, so a big thank you to all of you for joining us as we get to showcase and celebrate such amazing people and places. Now, I used to work at Ripley's Aquarium. It's one of my favorite places in the world. If you ever get the chance to head there in Toronto yourself, you will not be disappointed. But we're going to be joined live by one of my favorite colleagues ever. The others are great too, don't get me wrong, but Danielle was my all-time favorite person. And Danielle is our educator du jour today to explain to us a little bit about Ripley's Aquarium's amazing green sea turtles. They've got 3 turtles at the aquarium, one a fairly recent immigrant in, shall we say, and they're right at the camera. So I'm really excited to turn it over to Danielle to blow your mind about these amazing animals. Danielle, welcome in.
Oh, thank you so much, Jesse. That was a wonderful introduction that I will never get again, so that was wonderful. I'm going to do our land acknowledgement first, and our friends to feed the turtles are just on their way over. So Spot here, who you're looking at right now, will get some food, which she really, really, really wants. Ripley's Aquarium of Canada acknowledges that we're on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. And it's now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. Today, the meeting place of Toronto, also known as Toronto, meaning the place in the water where the trees are standing, is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we're grateful to work on this land. So you get to meet our 2 green sea turtles. We have 3, but the other one doesn't really come to our feeding post time. So this one here, this is Spot. She gets her name because of that pink dot that you see on the back of her neck, which is kind of hard to see right now because she's eating. And we have our friends feeding our turtles. So you can see they are eating some lettuce. We actually have a target for our turtles to come towards in order to get their food. So Spot is covering her whole target. It's a yellow Star Trek symbol. And then our Rebel Alliance symbol is right here. That is for Chewie, the other turtle. And he is on his way over. I saw him earlier today. If you're in the stream earlier, you might have seen him before. Spot is the middle size of our 3 turtles. The biggest one is the one who is our newest acquisition, and she will spend most of her time out in the big area, which if I just turn away from our friend Spot, you can see, whoa, look at how much space they have. And that's just a tiny little snippet. There's actually much more space. If you ever come to visit our aquarium, you will go through the shark tunnel and go underneath them on a moving pathway. And these wonderful turtles here are both green sea turtles. So you might think the name green comes from the color of their shell, but it is not. It's actually because they eat so much green food, it changes the color of their fat to a green color. And if you look here, Alexia, my friend over here, is actually wiggling something in the water. You might be able to hear that ringing noise. It's a bell, and normally it is used for dive teams so that they can tell the divers to come up to the surface. We need you. But we've actually bell trained all of our turtles so they come to the bell. So it's like a dinner bell. And so Spot and Chewie generally come here around their food time because they know it's food time, and Spot is very highly food motivated, so she will come right away. And Chewie less so he comes a little bit later. And he's supposed to come when that noise is heard. And if we look over at our friend over here, if you look really closely right there, we're actually making a little taco with lettuce as the wrap and some other veggies as the insides. And we feed them not just lettuce, but other things that you might eat. So we have sweet potatoes and carrots and peppers. And let's look in the food bucket here and see what we got. Oh, there's our other turtle. So here's our other turtle, and here's some food. You can recognize all of that stuff. So here is Chewie. Chewie gets his name because he likes to bite things. Mainly he likes to bite the decor in the habitat. So if you come to visit the aquarium and you go, wow, the coral's so big and beautiful, that's because an artist made it. It's fake. And Chewy likes to bite on it and chew on it, which is fine. And he also likes to eat his food. He's just not as food motivated as Spot is. If you look at the two of them and you're trying to tell them apart from here, just visually, Spot has a lighter shell and Chewy has a darker shell. They are the same species of turtle, and they did grow up together. So they have spent most of their lives together, and we think of them as siblings. Chewy here is the boy, and Spot is the girl, and our other turtle is a girl as well. And to tell turtles apart by their gender, you just actually look at their tails. So if they're older, the tail of a male turtle will be longer than their back fins. So if you look at the back fins over here, if he shows us his tail, you'll see it's actually quite a bit longer than Chewy's tail. And her tail's hidden right now. They're very, very happy to get their food. We actually feed them twice a day, once in the morning before we open, and this is their second feed of the day, and they get lots of yummy, yummy vegetable-like food. So you might think they're herbivores and vegetarians, but the answer is not really. So they are generally in the wild. They eat a lot of green food, like they will end up eating seagrasses and algae, but seagrass beds are filled with lots of other animals. So in nature, they don't eat fully vegetables. They will end up eating other things like other invertebrates and other animals that live in that space. And they're actually really important to the habitat because, after animals eat, they do that other thing. They create waste where they eat. And that created waste actually feeds the seagrass beds so that they can grow again, and they control how fast the seagrass beds grow, and they help to make that a great place for other animals to live, like small invertebrates and fish and baby animals, and they are able to grow and live in that space, and that is amazing for them. So our green sea turtles, we do have 3. These 2 have been with us the whole time we've been open. They were actually one of the first acquired animals at the aquarium. So they are from a place that sadly used to grow turtles for food. And they were actually rescued from there by a research team, and that research fell through from funding, and then we got them. And they didn't live here first because there was no aquarium, so they actually went from Vancouver all the way over to the other side of our wonderful large country. They went over to live at Dal in Halifax, and then after our building was built a little bit more, they came here, and they've been together for that whole time. So they do get along quite well. And then the other turtle we actually got just a few months ago, and she is also from the Vancouver area, and she was actually rescued from a beach. Her name is Schooner, and Schooner's Pass is a beach in that area where she should not be because turtles like this like warmer water, and she was actually kind of trapped there. And the good people at Vancouver Aquarium, they rescued her, and their space was just not as ideal as our space is. So she ended up moving here, and she took Air Canada flights to get here. And the 3 of them have been getting along quite well. And any new animal takes a little bit of time to get them trained the same way that we have our animals trained here. So these turtles, you might think that they're following our rules better. It's just because they have known them for longer, and that is all. Because these animals are young. So these 2 are our younger turtles. They are in their mid-20s, we think, and Schooner is older than that, we think, as well. And that's just because they're rescues. We don't know their actual ages. But these 2 here, they will probably get a lot larger than they are right now, and they will live into their 70s or older. So if you visit our aquarium later on, maybe 10, 20 years from now, most likely you will see the exact same turtles because we give them the highest quality of care and the best food for them to eat. And you might think, this is weird, they're eating salad like I do. That's not what they eat in the ocean. It's the same nutrition content, and it's much easier for us to eat, for them to eat, because seagrasses are just hard for us to get where we are in Canada. So it's just a lot easier. And I just want to give you some background on how turtles work. Because we talked about green sea turtles and turtles at the aquarium, and I absolutely love talking about evolution. And turtles are a little different than most other animals out there. So turtles, the original first turtle-like thing, was actually an animal that used to live underwater, and it crawled up on land, just like lots of other tetrapods did. And when they came on land, they liked to dig holes. And the best way to dig a hole is to have really strong arms. And to support a strong skeleton with those arms, they had to have a really strong upper body strength. And hello, Chewie came back. And so they actually developed the bottom shell first. The bottom shell on a turtle is called a plastron. So that's the shell you can't see from our angle, but if you visit our aquarium or any aquarium and you see a turtle swim over top of your head, that's the plastron. It's on their belly. And that supports their skeleton to be able to dig really, really well with those front limbs. But if you have a shell on your belly, you're a slow mover. And so they needed to protect the squishy upper side of their body. So they were able to develop that wonderful carapace, which is the shell you see right on top here. As beautifully seen right here. Thank you so much, Jessie, for that word. And that actually gives them the protection they need to survive. And that was the first tortoise. And then you might go, oh, tortoise, they live on land. You're right. So these animals, they decided it was better for them, and they liked it better because we all know it's better, down where it's wetter, for them to live underwater. So they actually changed from living on land back to moving underwater. So that's how we got sea turtles. And also that's how we got terrapins. A terrapin is what we call a lake turtle. So if you've ever seen a painted turtle or a snapping turtle, those are terrapins. And there are 7 species of turtles, sea turtles, that live in our world right now. And these are the second largest of all of the sea turtles. So these 2 are just small. They will grow bigger. And Skuna, our other turtle, she is the biggest and heaviest of the 2, and she is 270 pounds. Wow, that's amazing. She's so big. So they are an amazing animal to have here at our aquarium. Oh, thank you so much, Jessie. So these wonderful, beautiful animals here at the aquarium, they have a really long evolutionary history. They actually started out as 230 million years ago. So that's a really long time. They actually lived around the same time as the dinosaurs. And they're actually really closely related to birds and crocodiles, and much more so than they are to lizards and snakes. So a lot of friends will think, oh, wow, these animals they're reptiles. But lizards and snakes are in their own outgrouping compared to crocodiles and birds. So these animals are a little bit more like dinosaurs. If you look at their shell, you can tell that this is a green sea turtle by counting their scutes. So scutes are these fun shapes on their shell. So if you look at spot here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and that means it's a green sea turtle. And that's how you can tell them apart from the other types, because their shell color is really not the best way to tell them apart. These animals, in their natural habitat, it is Endangered Species Day, and you are right, they are endangered. All of the 7 species of green sea turtles all the 7 species of sea turtles are not actually doing well in their natural habitat. So they are not just endangered, some of them are critically endangered, some of them are just vulnerable, but they're all not doing well. And I'm sure all of you can say a way that is harming the natural habitat of turtles or harming their ability to grow bigger. And I'm just going to focus on a few of them. One of them, I know you know this, turtles eat plastic bags because they think they're jellyfish, and that could hurt their bodies if they are eating plastic. And that would be really bad. And also turtles, they go on land to have their babies, and in doing so, they might be in a developed area, or they might get into plastic, or they might accidentally go towards the shore instead of to the ocean, because they actually go to the brightest area, and where we live, usually where people are, is the brighter area. And they're also impacted heavily by climate change, and that's what I'm going to focus on. So when sea turtles have their babies, they'll mate in the ocean, and then they will come back on to the sandy beaches where they were first born, and then they will lay their eggs, dig a hole, lay their eggs, and cover it back up, go back out. And if the egg nest is warmer than 30 degrees Celsius, they are girls. And if it's colder than 30 degrees Celsius, they will be boys. And if there's too much heat, they will all be girls, and that's bad for the turtles. They need to have a good amount of boys and girls to make more baby turtles, and that is not so good for them. And if you're ever wondering why a turtle or any other animal comes up to the surface to breathe oxygen from the air, just like you do, or reproduces on land, that's because in the past, their ancestors did the same thing. So they actually think that's a good benefit for them. And these animals here, as long as they are calm in their natural habitat, they can hold their breath for up to 7 hours. But things like fishing gear and plastics in the water or things in their habitat they're not comfortable with will actually scare them away, and they won't be able to hold their breath as long. They can actually do this by doing something incredibly cool. They can lower their heart rate so that it beats once every 9 minutes, and that allows them to relax really well. So if you ever visit an aquarium and you see a turtle that is resting on the bottom and you don't see them move the whole time you're there, don't worry, they're just sleeping. So they are doing just fine. We take really good care of our animals. And lastly, any ways that you can help are ways that you reduce your single-use plastic use. I would like to remind everyone not to wish cycle, which means we know exactly what is recyclable and what isn't, and we put it in the right spots. And you look at your municipality's rules on what can go where. And if you can't recycle it, maybe think about using it for something else. A good example is like yogurt containers, the large ones. You can use those to clean paintbrushes and use for paint as well. You can also use you can use a lot of different things like reusable water bottles, and you can use lots of reusable bags. And also, my favorite thing to share with all my friends is to actually talk about what you know. You know so many things. There's so many people in your lives. You can actually talk about what you know, and that actually helps so much to help out our animals. We see so many friends who come to visit the aquarium regularly, and they forget that they share the world with cool animals like sharks and turtles, and we can help them because there's so many people. So if you work together with the people in your lives to clean up, use less waste, and to reduce our impact on climate change, that actually can make a giant difference in the survival of these beautiful animals, and I really would hope that happens. And I'll pass it back over to Jesse to get some questions.
Fantastic. Danielle, what timing that you literally finished the main body of the talk as the turtles just started to disappear back into the dangerous lagoon.
Yeah, they can hear me.
We couldn't have timed it better if we tried. I'm so glad you mentioned this idea of don't waste. And this is something that we highlight with kids all the time, really, regardless of program, whether it's emissions, whether it's plastics, whether it's food. Don't waste is a concept that can really help save not just turtles, but all animal life. So it's something we can all take forward after we finish this broadcast and share that information with our friends. Oh, we've got an awesome turtle skull, though. So I will go to Q&A. We've already got a bunch on YouTube, which is great live classes. I'm going to come to Miss Coddington's class first in just a minute. But Danielle, tell us about the turtle skull a little more.
Yes, thank you. I just noticed it sitting behind me. This is also a plastic one, but one of the coolest things that you can do with the turtle skull, it is a green sea turtles, is if we look at their jaw, they don't have teeth. They actually have more like a beak, like a bird's beak. And the green sea turtle has these ridges that is unique to them, and that's because they are mostly vegetarians. And they use that to cut seagrasses and things that are going to be really, really hard to eat. But they will also crush their food like shellfish. They're very good at doing so. And it is really amazing that we have the chance to learn more about the turtles. I'll pass it back off to you, Jesse. I can see we're doing a feeding for fish out here if you want to watch that.
That's fun too.
Turtles come back.
Well, by the way, if people want to see any fish feeding in our past history, that YouTube channel has like a gazillion broadcasts with all sorts of feeding, so you can keep the learning going when you're done. I also want to say a big shout out to the Rebel symbol on the feeding thing. So thank you to our Star Wars fans at their aquarium. We're going to head to Miss Coddington's class, Miss Foss's group. Come on in, or Miss Button's group, sorry. Come on in, grade 3s. Welcome in. Hi.
Hi. All right, Claire, ask your question.
Can turtles stick their body in their shell?
Oh, excellent question. Can turtles stick their bodies in their shell? And there's our third turtle. If you can't see right there, that like lump, that's her. She's on her way over, hopefully. We're going to try to feed her. Her symbol is a boat.
Nice.
Anyway, so turtles, like tortoises, can stick their bodies in their shell if they have that adaptation. But normally, terrapins and sea turtles cannot. And that is mainly because these animals don't actually have space inside their shell. If you look at their shell is not as dome-shaped as a tortoise's is. But the main reason to have the adaptation, there's our other turtle. This is Skuna, the biggest and our newest turtle. The reason why they don't have that adaptation is they don't live on land anymore. So the reason to have a shell on land, like a big one, is to hold all that water inside your bodies. You know, water is very important for your survival. So we want to make sure these animals can survive in nature, and that's what they do. But these ones if you look at a turtle, obviously they're not going to dry out. They live underwater, so they don't really need it as more than a shield.
Very cool. And it's so neat to meet Skuna, who I never got to see in person. What a giant turtle she is.
Yeah,
Wow.
Skuna. Yeah, beautiful. And she's got a very different, like, colored top of her
Yeah.
shell.
She's really odd and cool looking. I love it. And then there's Chewy, it looks like.
This is Spot, who's decided it's her food time again. She does this a lot. She's
Muscle
very
away.
food motivated, just like I am.
If anyone wants to check out a turtle that can get itself inside its shell, really cool. The box turtles are really, really fantastic creature. If you want to see sort of the ultimate adaptation for sort of encasing yourself in your shell. Thanks to our class in Ottawa there. We're going to head to Arizona Miss Rolls class. Come on in, guys. Hey.
Brianna! Oh, okay. Why do turtles have dots on them?
Why do they have dots on them, Danielle?
Turtles generally have different patterns on their bodies to help them to camouflage in their natural habitat. So on Skuna, we think that it is some sort of like algal growth that she has on her shell. But if you look here, these are actually just scales they have on the outside of their bodies. So it's kind of like how your skin might have, like if I don't moisturize my skin looks scaly. It's kind of the same sort of thing. And when these animals grow larger, because their shell is so hard and used for protection, this part, they actually shed their scutes, so all of those like hexagonal pieces, and then they will grow larger and they'll have new ones underneath. And if you're wondering, the carapace, this is actually the same material as your fingernails. It's just much stronger. So your fingernails and hair are keratin. It's the same stuff.
It's amazing how many things in nature are keratin. Rhino horn, we got the turtle shell. So it's a very versatile material on a lot of sort of armor things for animals. I will note, I'm going to take a few questions from YouTube. Miss Allen, Miss Fran, Mr. Stevens' class, if you guys want to unmute your mic, I can come to you and check for a question in a minute. In fact, Mr. Steven just came back in, so we'll check and see in California. Guys? Hi. I'll come check in a second. We got a bunch of YouTube questions. Mr. Backus's class, Donnie wants to know, since a turtle's tail is so small, what purpose does it serve, Danielle? Do you know?
I can take a guess. I don't exactly know. Google might know better than me. But the male turtle's tail is longer so that he can use it for mating, because that is where their reproductive organ is placed on their bodies. And turtles don't really need their tails for much else than that. So female sea turtles, I think they just have it because their gender determination is based on the temperature of the habitat they're first born in. So they'll probably just have it anyway.
Very cool. Miss Allen's class, just put their camera on. Unmute your mic, guys. Come on in. Welcome to the broadcast. Hey. Hi.
Are turtles, what's the difference between turtles and tortoises?
Yeah, Danielle, we want to cover this again. Make sure our kids know tortoises versus turtles today.
Yeah, so turtles, like these ones, they live underwater, and tortoises live on land. The big difference between the two is the domey shape of their shell for a tortoise. And these animals are much better at swimming because they have fins for swimming. As you can see, Skuna's fins right here. They're not really for walking. And tortoises have more like legs, although these animals can go up on land to lay their eggs. And green sea turtles are the only species of sea turtles that will go on land to sunbathe outside of their breeding season.
Awesome. Danielle, we're going to head to Rochester, Minnesota, Longfellow Elementary, Miss Fromm's class. If you guys want to come on in, you're good to go. Hey, fifth graders.
Can you hear us?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, go ahead, Kayla.
What are sea turtles' predators?
Ooh, what eats sea turtles, Danielle?
Oh, so when they are young, pretty much anything, because these animals, when they are first born, they are small, like 2 inches. Very, very small, like 5 centimeters, very small. And when they are first born, raccoons and dogs can eat them on the beach, and seabirds. But also when they get a little bit bigger, some bigger animals like groupers or some smaller sharks might eat them. And then when they get to be this big, one animal eats them. And that is the tiger shark, which is a very large type of shark that has special teeth that are shaped like a curved triangle. And that's how they can break the shell of a turtle. And obviously, there's the people-eat turtles, which you should never do because they're super endangered. So in nature, it's just the biggest ones are only eaten by tiger sharks.
I like this drama with the lettuce that's playing out, by the way. Great question, guys. Ms. Fromm's class, I'm going to come back to you because I know you have to go in a minute. We'll take a couple more from YouTube, and then we'll do another round with all our classes. But Rochester, come on back in.
It was not recording. Oh, okay, another question.
Yeah.
Aubrey.
Hey, Aubrey.
how big can they get?
Ooh, what's the biggest, Danielle?
So the biggest one here is this one. But the biggest in the world that has ever been recorded was 871 pounds and the length of 1.5 meters.
Wow, that is a huge, huge turtle. And we did reference the 7 types of sea turtle earlier. Leatherbacks are the biggest. They can get over 2,000 pounds, which if you're a grade 3 or 4 class is about the size of all the students in your class put together is one turtle, which is ridiculous. So I always like when we get to feature that. Great question, guys. All right, we're going to take a few from YouTube really quick. Miss McKinney's class wants to know, how do they keep water out of their shell?
Oh, so these animals don't really care about getting too much water in their bodies. But when these animals eat, if you were watching really, really closely when we got up close to Chewy's face, when they bite into the food, they push extra water out their nose when they eat so they don't accidentally swallow too much salty water, because I'm sure you are aware that salty water is not the best thing to eat all the time. And these animals also have special extra salt glands that allow them to get rid of extra salt they might accidentally swallow while eating. And that's sometimes why you might see a turtle with a like streaky, salty tears on their face, and that's how they get rid of it, is they cry it out.
It's a really weird thing to check out. I encourage our classes, look up sea turtle tears or salt tears after this is done. It's kind of gross, but kind of fun at the same time. We've got a bunch of great questions on YouTube. This is amazing. Miss Noise's class, also in Tucson, wants to ask, can they dive deep? How far under can sea turtles go?
Oh, I don't actually have that in my brain right now. So you'll have to look that one up, how deep they can go. However, they can hold their breath for up to 7 hours. So as long as they are able to find the space to get up to the surface, as long as they're calm, they can do that. And turtles, their range is based on the temperature. So as long as the temperature of the water is nice for them, they'll go there. And the turtle that can live in the coldest habitat is not these. They like more warmer water. That would be the leatherback sea turtle. They are found in the coldest habitats.
Yeah, well, so I just looked this up. The deepest sea turtle's ever been recorded going down is over 3,000 feet, which is a leatherback. 1,000 feet seems to be the bigger standard for most sea turtles, but that's an incredible depth to be able to dive. That is way deeper than the deepest dive a human has ever done. Say that 5 times fast. I'm going to take 2 more questions from YouTube, and then we're going to go back to Miss Coddington and Button's class. Miss Turnbull's class has a question that's been sort of repeated a lot on YouTube. And so they want to know about breathing underwater. I know you highlighted this, but if you could explain again how turtles breathe underwater or don't, that would be great.
So turtles can hold their breath, and if you've heard of terrapins, which are the lake turtles hibernating during the wintertime, they can breathe through their butts. It's really funny. But these animals here, what they do instead is, because they don't hibernate, they are awake all the time, they actually are going to use lungs. So inside this big shell here, they have 2 lungs just like you do. There's just are quite a bit better at holding their breath. So they take oxygen from the air. So if you visit any aquarium, you'll probably see the turtles come up to the surface, they'll take a breath, and then they will hold their breath. Yeah. And if you look, sorry, just.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you look closely at their shell, the body part on a person that is the shell is actually a rib cage. So they have a rib cage on the outside of their body instead of on the inside.
So we talked about the carapace earlier, the underside, the plastron. And so basically imagine your ribs expanded to connect with one another on the front and back, and then they all connected at the side. So it's like your ribs outside yourself. It is part of their skeleton. So one of the questions I know we got was, can turtles leave their shell? No turtle can leave your shell. It's the same reason you can't leave your skeleton. You can't just walk away from it. You just turn to goo. Same with the turtle. It's part of their actual structure of their body. Now, you talked about evolution at the beginning of this. One easy way to tell animals that evolved in the water versus animals that evolved out of the water originally is if they need to come up to breathe air. So a whale needs to come up to breathe air. A manatee needs to come up to breathe air. Our turtles and sea snakes also need to come up for air. That's a sign that at some point in their history, they were on land. They were land-living animals that returned back to the water. Fish, squid, things that evolved in the water don't have to do that. They have those gill structures. So I really like that question, guys. All right, one more really quick one from Miss Lou's class, and then Coddington, we're coming back to you, I promise. Actually, we've covered that one. See, Danielle, you and I take these questions, and then we take them in so many different places that we cover the other questions that people get. So I'll share Ms. Tamash's class question. Do turtles communicate with one another, and what's the most common sea turtle in the world?
So they do communicate with each other, but in a way that I don't understand, and you probably don't either. I think most animals do communicate with the animals in their species. sometimes it is behavior, sometimes it is extra chemical symbols in the water, sometimes it's how they move. And those are things that we don't understand as well because we use words. And these animals here, outside of just like chemicals in the water and movements, they can also sense the electric, the magnet that is created by our beautiful big world. So that's how they can figure out where to go. So they actually have a special compass inside their bodies that allows them to figure out where to go back to the same beach, to figure out where the food grounds are. And they can do that. It's called magnetoreception. So if you've heard of electroreception, is what sharks do. These animals magnetorecept. So they can sense the magnet.
Very cool. Now, so there's a few animals that have this. Some pigeons do. Birds in general have a lot of magnetoreception, sort of in the animal kingdom broadly. It's one of the coolest senses on this planet. There's a really amazing book a couple of years ago or last year called An Immense World that sort of details some of the really cool adaptations of animals to sense their environment in ways that seem really foreign to us as people. Great questions, guys. Miss Connington, Buttons class, I'm coming back to you. I know it took a long time, but we're back. Hey.
Okay, go ahead.
How long do sea turtles live?
Ooh, good question.
How long do they live? So in general, they will live over the age of 70. In an aquarium setting, our animals usually live longer than their wild counterparts because if I just turn the camera away from Skuna, look at all that plastic floating in the water. 0. That's right, 0. It's very healthy here. We give them medical care, so they get vitamins and vet visits, and they get all the food that they need to survive. Hi, Skuna. So they get a really long, nice life here at the aquarium because we are able to feed them so well and take care of them, and they don't have fishing nets or plastics. And so hopefully she'll live like over 70 years.
Fingers crossed. They are one of the longest lived group of animals on this planet. I know in the aquarium they feature the Greenland shark too, which is like one of the longest lived of all things in the oceans, which is several hundred years old. But turtles are up there in the longevity sweepstakes. So are us people, actually. Miss Rollsglass, back to Tucson. Come on in, guys. Hey.
How did turtles keep their shells, and what are the turtles' shells made of?
Yes. How do they close them? What are they
I
made
missed
of?
the first half of the question. What are they?
Yeah. Is it how do they close them?
How do they get their shells? Like,
How
are
do
they
they get
born
their
with
shells
shells, or
anyway?
are they born all mushy or whatever?
Yeah, they
Nice.
are. Turtles are born with their shells. When they first come out, their shells are not actually as hard as like the shells of a big sea turtle like this one here, but they do still have a shell that is limited protection when they are first born. They are made of the same material that you find in your hair and your nails called keratin. That's a shorter word, starts with a K. And it is actually a really good protection for them. And they, just like most animals that shed parts of their body like snakes do in order to get larger, they actually shed off the scutes. So on Skuna, it's actually pretty hard to see your scutes because she's got this different coloration, but it's the hexagonal patterns on the top of their bodies. They actually lose them as they grow bigger, so their shell can be nice and strong and sturdy.
Amazing. We are going to head to Miss Allen's class. Welcome into Odessa Public School. Unmute your mic. Come chat with me. Hey, guys.
How fast are turtles?
How fast are they, Danielle?
Well, I mean, they're not tuna fast, but they can swim fast if they want to. Ours are very lazy, so they usually don't because they're not running away from anything or chasing anything. So ours are pretty slow moving. But with the big shell, it actually has not only like their lungs, but also air in there. So it helps them with their buoyancy to help them swim. And I think that a turtle could easily outpace any person.
Easily. I like how you chirped them at the beginning, though, by comparing them to tuna. That's a very mean comparison. I like it. People, they're not cheetahs. We're going to do one more quick round of questions, folks. Let's come into Miss Coddington's class one more time. Welcome to Ottawa. Hey.
How does turtles go to sleep?
Ooh, how do they sleep?
They sleep just like you and I do. So the only difference is they sleep underwater. So they find a spot that they feel is safe and they shut their brains off a little bit, but not totally because generally speaking, we have a really good idea of how pets and people sleep. But when it comes to other animals, they always have to be aware of their surroundings, like food, predators, space for them to sleep, that sort of stuff. They can't really trust the animals they live with to tell them about danger. So they just rest when they are at the bottom. So if you see a turtle not moving so much, that's them resting. One of our turtles, Spot, she sometimes rests at the surface of the water because she's really lazy. So sometimes you might see her floating, just doing nothing. She's very good at resting. And turtles, they can rest for about 7 hours in a row.
I'm so glad you mentioned this idea of like sort of having to keep a little bit of awareness. It's really, people are one of the only animals that gets us to completely rest and not care what's happening around them. If Scooter tried to sleep, Spot would come in and take all her food. So we want to avoid that happening when you're in the wild. And I like that question very much, guys. Miss Rolls class, we're coming back to you one more time, and then Miss Allen will wrap it up with you guys. Come on in. Hey. Go. Come on. No, you're good. Take your time.
How many days without food?
How many days can they go without food? Interesting.
Oh, wow. So their digestion is actually really slow because they have a slow metabolism, unlike us who use their metabolism a lot. Like we run around. They are really lazy compared to people. So they are going to digest. It takes them 2 to 3 days to digest their food. So I'm going to guess that they can probably go more than a few days without eating. But here at the aquarium, we want to make sure they always have food available. So we do feed them twice a day here. And because this is not nature, we are making sure they get all of the food and habitats that they need here for them to survive.
I'm glad you mentioned the different metabolism. One of my favorite facts I've ever learned about nature ever is that big snakes, like the huge pythons, we have recorded as going 2 years between meals. So they'll eat something like a deer or an antelope, and they can live off that for like multiple years, which is insane. It's just so cool. We're going to head to Miss Allen's class to wrap up with one final question. If you guys want to keep the learning going when this is done, Ripley Aquarium has an amazing website. There's so much to discover there. If you ever get the chance to go in person, I know we've got a lot of classes in the GTA today. It is just such a special place. They have tons of school groups come all the time. We are just barely scratching the surface of what you can see with our turtle friends today, and I really encourage you to check that out. Miss Allen, come on in, guys, to wrap us up with one final query. Hey.
How long does it take the turtles to get from the beach to the water?
Ooh.
Oh, how long does it take? Well, actually, when they do reproduce, they go up on to the shoreline actually during the nighttime, because if they go in the daytime, they might actually dry out. So the turtles, they'll come up in the early hours of the dusk time, and then they will lay their eggs, and then they'll crawl back in the morning. And then it takes about 2 months for their eggs to hatch, and then it takes a little bit of time for the baby turtles to crawl back into the water. So hopefully that is at a time when the tide is higher and the temperature is lower so that they don't dry out. But turtles have many babies, and only 1 or 2 make it to adulthood. And that's why they have so many babies. It's just a different reproductive strategy. They are probably not going to have all their young make it to adulthood.
One of the most epic dramas in the natural kingdom is seeing turtle babies go to the water. And in fact, a little over 2 months ago, we had live in Nicaragua with the sea turtle babies going to the ocean with some people to help protect them from predators. But a really special broadcast if you want to follow up with this. Danielle, amazing Aquarius team. You guys rock as always. It is such a thrill to get to hang out at Ripley's Aquarium of Canada, see 3 awesome turtles today. Is there any final message you want to share before we bring in our 3 classes? Say a big thank you and farewell, Danielle.
Yes, I'm going to share the same thing I share with all of my classes, which is you have a voice and you can share it with others. So there's somebody who in your life who did not visit the aquarium today. Share one cool thing that you learned today about any of our sea creatures at the aquarium, especially our turtles, ways to help, cool things you learned. And that helps us not forget we share the world with other cool living things that live underwater. And maybe we can try a way to help, like reducing our plastic waste, or cleaning up beaches, or even just sharing about these amazing animals when you come to visit any aquarium.
Danielle, I am off to tell my wife immediately, and I hope our kids tell their families and friends today too. As you know, we wrap up every broadcast by bringing in all the kids. So Miss Conigan, Miss Allen, thank you all so much for joining today, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now, guys. Thank you. Bye.